always felt like you never accepted who I was, so I had to be who I am somewhere else, whether that's manifested in gangs or whatever, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
And my mom was like, I'm sorry for the way I raised you. And I was like, what?
Oh, good thing we're
Currently
off the record.
Try that again. Make it.
No, leave it
That's your
because
line. That's
we
your
don't
line.
do
I want it
retakes.
to be streamy work.
We don't do edits here, brah.
Here's the thing.
we're not learning streaming.
It's over.
Take a second and think about throughout the course of your life, who are some people that you were totally wrong about?
George W. Bush.
What do you mean?
What did you think about him? And then where were you wrong?
No, is this a fucking joke? Huh? What do you mean? You used to be a George W. Bush fan?
Big fan.
You really were?
Huge fan.
Yeah, right.
You didn't hate. I felt like everyone in our generation hated his.
You
Not
actually
me.
liked him?
Well, after 9/11, I was like, we gotta fucking, let's go.
Oh, so you were indoctrinated.
I was brought into the system. CIA, FBI. I thought those guys were like the front line for America.
To be fair, I was with him, and I only say that because remember, all Vietnamese people are Republicans by way of the war. So no matter what, even my parents had a George W. Bush fucking photo hanging in our living room.
Wow.
So, like,
I voted for George W. Bush too.
Me
Because
too.
my church said to.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
We were Bush people?
I was.
I think church people usually are.
Well, our church didn't speak of any politics.
Oh,
So I was surprised.
maybe it's just my youth pastor.
Maybe.
You gotta vote Bush.
I mean, the reason why I lash out so much about war stuff now is because I really was like I thought it was all like legit and shit. Like I really did. I really
So you feel duped and then
feel duped.
So you feel
yeah.
hurt because of that.
Yeah, and I believed my government. I believed the WMD lie bullshit. All that stuff. I used to look. I even thought that like anybody who even questioned 9/11, not like, oh my god, like that mean like we all know.
don't look at me.
Not like we all know for a fact that it was a conspiracy. I just mean that they used 9/11 as an excuse to do all kinds of fucked up.
And now you've changed your mind.
Absolutely.
Like 9/11 didn't happen.
no, that's you. I think 9/11 happened, but I think that they used it as an excuse to do fucked up shit
Like
and
COVID.
make tons of money for themselves, which they always do with everything. So, but now I'm more cynical about the world than I didn't used to be. I used to be rah, let's go USA bullshit stuff. So, yeah. Definitely wrong about that.
Wow, that's pretty big to admit, actually.
Oh, I can't wait to admit it. GWB or George W. Bush is the biggest warmonger of my life.
Wow.
Him, Rumsfeld, Cheney, all those guys. Scumbag war criminals, 100%. Obama's a war criminal. Trump's a war criminal. Like, I'll never believe those guys ever again. Any of them.
Hey, dude. I fucking salute you, brother.
Let's go, brother.
Thank you for your service.
That's tight. That's gangster shit.
Anybody else have a person that comes to mind that you were totally wrong?
For me, it's not necessarily individuals, but I was wrong about how people will respond and react a lot. So, for example, I thought that like most people had this desire to do something for themselves, break out and whatever, and all they needed was a chance. All they needed was a bit of resources and whatever. And then now I've come to realize that people are their own demise in most cases. In most cases where you see someone in a bad state, or they fucked up, or they didn't succeed, or they couldn't get somewhere, like it's like, for example, right? Like, let's say someone's like down and out and you feel bad for them, but then you talk to their family members. They burnt so many people that no one would want to offer them their couch anymore. There's just like, they were so mean that's why they're alone on Christmas. And there's just all these things, right? So you're just like, wait a minute, like, should we feel sorry for this person? Because they burnt every single person that loved them. And now they're getting what they deserve because of how they've basically dug their own grave. And I think, like, the older I get, the less kind of sympathy and empathy I start having, because it's so, this pattern is like, you are doing this for yourself. Or you see this in people that are like, hey, you're causing like people to run away from you because you're so controlling, or like other things like that. Yeah.
Is there a specific person or situation?
Not necessarily. It's just an observation. So like I've grown to become a little colder, where before it used to be like, oh, everyone, if they say like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and like, I'm gonna give you an opportunity, I'm gonna give you this, but then like
Put 'em on track.
Even people that are not motivated, I'll just like, come on, dude, I'd want to motivate them. You can do it and whatever. And then I realized like everybody,
It's just on them, huh?
they have their own they lock their own selves up in their heads. So like I feel like we share the same physical realm, but their reality is so fucking different, and I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how different their world was. I just thought it was kind of similar, and everyone had hopes and dreams, and then you just have to like kind of nudge them this way, and then they're like, oh, I see it now, I'm gonna go and do it. But then like now I'm like, whoa, like no, people are like living in completely different realities.
I know what you're talking about. There's times where I'm like, oh man, this thing really helped unlock this part of my life for me. I can't wait to pass it on. And then you want to pass it on, but then you realize when you pass it on, it doesn't necessarily help the other person because they have to unlock it for themselves.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Because there's times where like you're like, oh man, if I had known this when I was this age, things would have been way better or way different.
Can't pass down the
And
breakthrough.
you're like, fuck yeah, I want to. Yeah, but the breakthrough has to happen themselves, no matter how much you try to help.
Nothing's breaking.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like blame the victim, right? Because there's like people that are literally in shitty situations since they were born. Like they're just abandoned. Nobody loved them. Like it's just a really hard fucking life. But I'm talking about like generally, I've seen time and time again people fuck their own lives up. And I'm just sitting there going like, what the fuck? Like when people are like getting fired or like all these things, right? It's like, yeah, because they stole from the company or they did something, you know, I'm like, and then they're just wondering like why the world's kicking them around. I'm
Self-righteous.
Like, it's like, maybe you shouldn't have stole from the company.
What
Maybe
about,
you
like-
shouldn't have cheated on the person that you loved.
What about
like,
the employees that like get like pay cuts?
They deserve it.
maybe you should have worked harder.
They're being self-righteous. That's what my line says. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're being entitled.
That's what my line says. I was being. It's my fault.
Oh, you know who I was wrong about? My mom.
Oh, yeah, I remember you said.
Yeah, like so for the month of December, my mom pretty much stayed with us because you know like my whole dad's passing thing, so like she just doesn't feel comfortable at her house and all that stuff. So we're like, yeah, come on over, hang out with us, change the energy and stuff. So during that month, even when I come here to film, my mom is in Vegas with Gio and Taika, and they're just like living a life. And my mom really got to know Taika because during COVID, she was stuck in Taiwan for 2 years, and her and Gio really bonded. And throughout my whole life, I've always had like this kind of like a resentment and distance with my mom. So I just felt like my upbringing was so weird and different and so controlling that I never felt like if shit ever happened, I didn't feel like my mom was someone I could run home to. Like I always felt like I just have to make it happen on my own. And then so now that me and my mom are more reacquainted, she's been like saying how like, oh, she would like it more if like I texted her more or if like we're like close, you know? And I was explaining to my mom like that distance that you feel, it's a result of how our relationship was since we were a kid. And that was a conversation, first of all, I never thought we would ever have.
That's so fucking mature. I would never be able to imagine that, by the way. But
Yeah, I never thought that would even be like a conversation we could have to begin with. I thought it was just gonna be she passes or I pass or whatever, and we're just gonna have this distance for the rest of our life. But I let her know, I was like, it's a result of the extreme controlling and all that stuff that we had, that I had growing up. And then she was like, oh, like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, how about bringing an 8-year-old to the temple to how to be a monk for a day? I was like, you think that's normal? My mom starts busting up laughing like crazy. Like, I think it was so absurd to hear it now that she's like out of that mindset.
Yeah, she's laughing at your pain.
Yeah, I was like, an 8-year-old, like 4 a.m., bowing on the floor all the way up to the mountain for like a mile and then coming back. I'm like, is that fucking normal? And then she starts like laughing. I'm like, or I was like, oh, does this remind you of anybody? And I went to the TV. I was like, I wonder if anybody watched TV today, huh? Is it warm? I see. Someone did watch the TV. They peeled back the tape, and you beat the fuck out of a kid. Mom's like dying of laughter.
This is good. This is progress.
I was like, that's you, Mom. I was like, from all of that, I was like, even in the early days of JK, I'm like, I'm wearing red underwear for like 10 years of my life because she told me I have to wear it. So even after I was past my 20s, like,
Wait, why'd you have to wear red underwear?
Cause good luck,
it's good luck or some shit.
Come on, Steve.
But the cool thing is, like, I think she's
Go ahead by choice, Steve.
I blocked out some things, like you did, I think.
I think she started to see, right? I think finally from like her age now, like looking at the lens of where it was back then. And in the beginning, I think most people are defensive. Oh, but it's because of this. Or like, I'm like a single mom, or I would have to do whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm not blaming you, Mom. I'm like, I'm not blaming you for anything. I'm just explaining these sequence of events caused the relationship that we have now. Is this gonna be the future? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the reason why, like, I'm not lovey-dovey the way like Gio's brother is with Gio's mom, like he's her rock because she's always been fully accepting of who he is. I always felt like you never accepted who I was, so I had to be who I am somewhere else, whether that's manifested in gangs or whatever, And my mom was like, I'm sorry for the way I raised you. And I was like, what?
I thought she was gonna laugh again.
Mind blowing, dude.
She set up a pattern.
Yeah, so I was like, holy shit.
But that's
I was like, that's crazy.
kind of expanding on what I was saying is that like she cultivated that relationship and she wants something that she didn't work for.
Yeah. Right.
So then now it's like when you called her out on that, she realizes, took responsibility, and now there's progress, right? And what I mean by people are their own demise is if you call them out on that, they'll deny it. They won't take responsibility.
excuses.
They'll still feel entitled to whatever they want while never changing who they are. And I think that's the thing that I've seen is like, so now from that point, you and your mom can move forward and have a different like stage in your relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I keep seeing this pattern every fucking time, everywhere I go with so many humans that I'm like, damn, this is like probably one of the biggest reasons why people are just stuck at where they're stuck at.
You know who I was wrong about too? Is my wife. Because I actually like when I first met her, we were doing this comedy group, and like I didn't know. Well, there's also a thing too where she's a very attractive person, so it was like I didn't like I had a girlfriend at the time, and I didn't want to like make anything weird ever, so I'd mostly like bust her balls and stuff, which that's like. In my family, that's like what you do.
Yeah.
Like you bust balls because like that's how you show affection. We do that in this room, but then people are like, "Man, they hate each other. It's crazy."
That's why we keep seeing each other every year.
But no,
That's why you've been busting my balls?
not about you.
Likes you
I'm
most.
talking about Joe. Not you. No, but yeah, I definitely didn't realize how smart Nikki was. Like when I first met her.
Oh, interesting.
Because she used to play this character like on the Totally Sketch days that we were
Like the bimbo.
the stupid bimbo chick. And it's not that I thought she was actually dumb. It's just like that was my introduction to her. And like but on set she was really cool and all that stuff. But we didn't really get to know each other until like a couple years into that thing, like where we actually had private time with each other, like doing on set and like actually getting to hang out and talk and stuff, and not just in a group setting where everyone's fucking around.
Yeah.
So that definitely was eye-opening for me.
Plus
Like,
that distance between like seeing her as this like character that's kind of a dumb bimbo, but her actual genius. It's so
crazy.
fucking far
It's
apart.
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's like she's not just like normal smart.
She's a genius, yeah. She is.
Because honestly, like the first time I met her, I was like, oh, she seems really nice. She's really cool. But then the last time she was on the show, I realized I was like, oh, she's like a savant.
She is a savant.
Yeah.
Like I got to see it when she started talking a little bit about poker. I was like, oh fuck, like she's on another level.
Goes deep.
She's like lapping her own IQ number.
Yeah.
I know.
She just doubled up.
No, she's so smart. So yeah, it's one of those things too where
Wow,
you're like,
that's cool.
oh yeah, I remember. But I remember like the change of like how I saw her, how I know her, and I love it. It's been awesome.
That's cool, man.
One really sad. I haven't really like talked about this publicly because it's so like sad. But like,
Oh, another death.
no, it's kind of, but it's like, it's not a death.
More of a maiming.
So like, when I was like, when I first started breaking, there was this like b-boy that I looked up to. He was like he's like a star b-boy basically, like a dance royalty. We would regard him as that. His name is B-Boy Crumbs.
Ooh, crumbs.
Yeah, he's like legendary. And so growing up, when I would go to my first b-boy jams, like I would ask him for a photo, like my disposable camera, and I was like a big fan of this guy.
Context is legendary. You could download his video off of Napster at the time. He was one of those OG people.
Yeah, he's like really like a pillar of like creativity in breaking, game changer, obviously. And then so like I always like looked up to him, like me and Dietrich, like we all have his like videos and stuff, like his physical DVDs, like we'd buy all of his shit, and just follow his career. And then once we had made it to ABDC 2009, somebody had started on a b-boy forum a topic about Quest Crew like being just total like shit, that we just like completely sucked, and we're just like
Not real b-boys.
yeah, we're just frauds.
So funny.
And I was like, who the fuck would say all this shit? And it was him. And then I just like, it like broke my heart, dude. I was just like, what the fuck? And
Never meet your heroes.
And the thing is that it wasn't
True.
the thing that I was wrong about isn't that like, oh, I thought he would be a fan of me. I didn't think that. It's that his claims of why we were bad were so unfair. It was like,
He was just jealous of you guys.
Yeah, he's a hater.
because we had been like, there was this one episode where we had to dance to a Britney Spears song, and he said that was so un-b-boy for us to do that.
Sold out.
But like he was a fucking Christina Aguilera dancer, and we thought that was great, and we were
Maybe that's why he was like, Britney Spears is Tupac. Christina Aguilera, she's the gangster.
She's underground.
But like
She's
all
dirty.
all the things that he was honest about, and plus like Victor, one of my crewmates, he did like one-handed hops, which at the time was already a universal move, and he said that Victor bit him directly, which by the time like tons of people are doing that, but no one's getting
That's
shit
so
for it.
insecure,
But
bro.
he was giving shit to us, and I wrote back on the forum, and I just explained like, I couldn't be more disappointed at this moment to just like write back to you in this light and just tell you like,
You better clap back. Fuck yeah, Ryan.
and it wasn't like so much of a clapback. It was just like I had just forgotten that
Yeah.
the best b-boys don't necessarily make the best people,
Oh yeah.
That's hella true.
and then that's what I was wrong about as a whole. I was like, I always thought like, oh, look at these star b-boys, they must be great quality people, and majority of them are not, especially at the time. Arguably, like at the time when b-boying wasn't a sustainable career monetarily, you had a lot of like bum b-boys that were like amazing but had very bad life choices. And that's to their disadvantage, being that there's no market. Like I understand that, but also at the same time, like there are b-boys that were legendary that were very happy for us and very supportive, and that were on the same crew as this guy. But his personal vendetta against us was like, just to finally be at a level where you think your hero could respect you, and that's what you got.
That's so weird and closed-minded for such a successful industry b-boy.
I thought he had it all. I was like,
This dude was also in like You Got Served. Like he was doing like work in the industry, and like,
He's the guy.
Straight up, like when even b-boys like hardcore dance culture, underground, blah blah. If you're fucking like fully commercialized, and you're doing like pop celebrity work and stuff. Usually, all those cats are like pretty open-minded. They understand.
a lot of them are
It's
really-
not a sellout. It's a lifestyle. Like you can't. You can't always just be nation authentic and then also hope to make like an entire livelihood and support your family off that. It's a give and take, right?
Right.
It's like you might be in love with like jujitsu and like the combination stuff, but at the same time you got to teach newbies. Like that's part of the culture. You know what I mean?
And a big part of it, honestly, is like as vulgar as it's to say, it's just because we just weren't sucking anyone's dicks, to be honest, because we weren't part of their cliques, and we shot up kind of unexpectedly before they gave us the okay.
So they were like, who are these guys?
exactly.
They're not real b-boys.
But it's not like we
bless
didn't,
these
but we
guys.
didn't disrespect them. Like we fucking worship these dudes. And the sad thing is that because he's the one saying that and he's so influential, it caused a lot of people in that community to just not like us by default.
I see.
Crumb said you guys are whack, then you're whack. It's like,
Did he ever respond to what you said to him?
he did, and it was kind of like he just kind of doubled down mildly on what he had said. But then at the end, he was like, "But thank you for supporting me and my crew for so many years." And I was like,
That's
Because he turned you into a fan.
"I guess, yeah."
Have you ever met him in person, or you guys ever talked?
I don't know if he
Do b-boys ever fist fight?
very rarely.
I'd be like, Man, fuck you. We're gonna meet at the park.
You know what's funny?
And we're gonna fucking dance.
Some of the most frequent fist fights at b-boy jams would happen between the 10th Planet Freaks.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, they're trying to fight everybody. That's.
But it was more people that were trying to fight them.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I did run into him a few times, but I don't think he knows my face like that.
Oh, because he just sees the crew, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think he can like. I don't know, because he's never addressed me like to my face.
Watch, he knows all of you guys. Profile. He has your poster on his fucking wall. Like he's a hardcore fan.
You know that's such a weird concept because like when you get to that level when like a culture or an entire community refers to you as like an OG or a legend or whatever, there's like this pedestal that you're on, but there's also like that same height of the pedestal is like how hard that fall can feel sometimes. You know what I mean? When you get that from some of your heroes, your inspirations, when you like meet certain people and they just like are not what they are, you know what I mean, on like stage, it just is such a shock and a disappointment. And it's not, you know, maybe it's naivety, you can call it ignorance and stuff like that, but like I think it's a two-way street. For those people who understand that they are also recognized as legends, you do kind of have to like, you gotta play your fucking role, you know what I mean? You don't have to like, you know, the people who are fans of you, but you gotta at least be respectful enough that they can continue to be fans of you.
It's also how he did it. It's like I would have appreciated if that's how he felt, and if he came to one of us, it was like, y'all are doing it wrong, like let me give you some guidance, rather than do like a fucking slam book out of Mean Girls, like
or I get the era too, like get on these forums, like maybe have a conversation, but like not pick a side, because when you're like a legend of something, you know what I mean, on a culture that's defined by like inclusive love, like I think it's very specific when you're talking about dance culture in general, you know what I mean? It's something that's like kind of about like oppression. It's about like, you know, breaking the barriers between like racial, language, religious divide or economic and social class. Like it's like the foundation and its generation of it is the creation of it is based on such ideal like foundations. You can't, I don't know, I just feel like the heroes and the legends shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff, because you really just destroy a lot of...
You gotta support the culture.
Yeah, it's just not right. And I only say this because like there's a concept in the dance world, and I'm pretty sure it's applicable to a lot of different like deep niche cultures, but like there's this concept of like bitter OGs, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
People that like did definitely and respectfully put in the legwork to create something, but when the world changes, if they don't keep up with it, or like other people are able to take the mantles and fly further with their current resources, it's a blame game. It's not ever like a mature understanding or acceptance, like these are the times and like maybe I can either be a part of it and participate, support and or whatever. It's just like a why. It's not even mature enough to be like, why do they have these opportunities? It's more like, you don't deserve these because. And that happens so much in like the quote unquote bitter OG game that it's just off-putting, you know what I mean?
I think bitter OGs exist in everything.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's applicable to like so many cultures.
Yeah.
To even be considered an OG, and so far that you can be called a bitter OG, that already should say enough about like the lack of just evolution that your mind has.
Well, look, there's this inherent like thing about maturity that people bake into the OG thing. OGs didn't ask to be OGs. They didn't even know what the fuck they were getting.
They were just good.
They were just good at the time of what they were doing, and then people do this shit to them where it's like, you're like that Gandhi of this thing, and like you're saying, like you found out that he has flaws and he's a human and he gets jealous as fuck.
Which is okay, like that. Nothing about him as a person.
But just let's take the statues down, because like these cats are the same as us, right? Like, and I think we all do that though. We all do that.
Right, that is true. It's like, of course, he has a right to be whatever.
Be a
It's like,
petty
he's a
bitch.
fucking guy. Yeah.
We can still separate the two, right? Like artistry-wise, still fucking absolute legendary. Can't fucking compete with that. Like
He couldn't lock. He could pop, but he couldn't lock.
But then the fact that it can get close enough to understanding, like, you know, and I'm not talking about just him particularly. I'm talking about any of us are susceptible to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even the way that like
for sure.
whether Quest or can just be looked at in a certain way. It's like if we don't act accordingly, if we don't like support in the way that we were supported, not the ways that we weren't supported, but like, you know, if we don't support others in the way we were supported, it's like same shit. We're just gonna be bitter OGs that don't fucking get like what's going on with the scene, you know?
Spoken like a bitter shoemaker.
OG cobbler.